Hi, world. What up? It's Devin Booker. You know, great cat. Congrats to him making his first All Star appearance. Shout out to Dame Lillard. Pretty much sitting out with the injury and pretty much opening that spot in that slot for Devin Booker. Congrats to him. Whenever it comes to him, he's been playing 5 seasons in the NBA. It's crazy to think this is his fifth season, but let alone the playoffs were never in sight for the Phoenix Suns any one of those seasons. And as we've seen with Devin Booker, as a basketball player individually, he's always been a high proficient basketball scorer when it comes to, his first couple seasons, especially now in this day and age. Listen, he came into the 2015-2016 season. He averaged around 14 points his rookie year, elevated to his sophomore season around 22 points. Then each year he's been kind of gradually been around 24 to 26 points per game when it comes to Devin Booker. And again, he's a great shooter when it comes to the free throw line. He'll give you around 85 to 90% from the line whenever it comes to that. 3-point percentage, actually he shoots around 32 to 36%, something he probably should look to bump up a little more. But when it comes to him, he pretty much is going to have to shoot off the dribble because all the defense is focused on him. There's not really an offensive system that's placed in Phoenix. Credit, they did hire Monty Williams from the New Orleans Pelicans a couple years back, but they just signed him for this season. And the Phoenix is actually picking up their stride. They're actually adding veterans to their team, making somewhat respectable moves to elevate the franchise per se. Brought in Ricky Rubio, a veteran around 28 years of age, into that starting point guard slot. Devin Booker's at the 2. You have Kelly Oubre Jr., who's at the 3. He's been, great whenever he was with the Wizards, let alone with Phoenix. He's actually shining more. We have to look more into his injury. He just had an injury. I think he's going to be done for the rest of the season. And I don't know about following the next season when it comes to that. You also do have Dario Saric at the 4. Then they actually drafted DeAndre Ayton last season. Pretty much there was a stat with him and Shaq. They were neck and neck when it comes to their dominance. I forgot exactly what it was. I think it was around 20, 25 points when it comes to their first season or two. Over around like 60% shooting and close to a triple-double. Don't quote me on that. Something along those lines. DeAndre Ayton's going to be a great player with them. He needs to progress a little more. But guys, come on. We're looking now, his 5th season. And I don't even expect for next season, if they were to make moves, for the Phoenix Suns to make the playoffs. And, that's the thing whenever you're in the Western Conference, man. I mean, it's always loaded with great franchises, bunch of stars. And, that's the way it is. So we've heard things in the past to where, and rumors of Devin Booker wanting to allegedly join Karl Anthony Towns as well as D'Lo on an alternative location. This could be in Phoenix. This could be in Minnesota. We've seen with Minnesota they made the move. So this is something to where Devin Booker can request a trade for next season, maybe wanting to join Minnesota along with those 2 other cats. But, I'll get more of my, take within here. Let's see what these guys have to say about it.
On track to join LeBron James and Oscar Robertson as the only players with multiple seasons averaging 26 points per game and 6 assists before the age of 24. However, his team, 7-21 against teams with winning records this season. No bueno. Max, I'll start with you here. Do you feel like Booker is wasting his time with the Phoenix Suns?
Yes. And this goes along with him, Karl Anthony Towns. Same thing was with Andrew Wiggins. There's probably other cats, young stars, I can't really think on top of my head. If I think about it, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, there's a couple young stars like that. They played around at least 5 seasons in the NBA. They're not getting anywhere with that talent, let alone being a number 1 option for that franchise. So when it comes to Devin Booker, he needs to be a second option whenever it comes to growing a team. Same thing with Karl Anthony Towns. Listen, their peak, that they're going to be in the first 7 seasons or so with the first franchise, maybe 1 playoff appearance, if any. I don't expect the Suns to make the playoffs. If they were to, it would probably be 2 to 3 years from now, and then he's probably going to leave either way. So it doesn't make sense when it comes to Devin Booker on that side. With him with Phoenix, it's not a good mesh. Never really has been. He's been an explosive box office for their team, but they can't pair him with another all-star, let alone young cats. You do have DeAndre Ayton. I don't think the timelines are actually going to match up together to where they'll be a dominant like a Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, where they can make the playoffs. I don't think it's not worth it, let alone their timeline. Hey, credit to Devin Booker. Around 2 to 3 seasons ago, he did score 70 points against the Boston Celtics. Let alone they did lose that game, but Devin Booker is an offensive juggernaut. I don't believe you can put him as a number one option, let alone build a team off him. I think if he's the 1B, let alone the number two option, he fit in perfectly because he is around 6'3", and he's still learning how to handle the ball, let alone maybe try to play a combo point guard position. But he's in a weird mix. He can't carry your franchise that way. And I don't expect DeAndre Ayton to take on that pressure, let alone the responsibility of being a number one option for the Suns.
Not
So,
exactly, no. I mean, look, could he be in a better organization? Would he have more success? Yeah, probably, sure. Okay. But does that mean he's wasting his time with the Suns? Look, Booker is, if you're a max contract type player, and you're an all-star type player, and you have other of those kind of guys on your team, DeAndre Ayton, and it's not like you have no talent on the team. Sure, you can look to the organization and the coach. Maybe the same assemblage of talent would do better elsewhere in another organization with a better coach. But part of the issue is, while he's an excellent scorer, especially for his age, as you point out, Molly, and he's a pretty efficient scorer, especially considering his usage rate is quite high, he is an all-star. He's not an MVP caliber player, at least not yet. And if you have a couple of guys like that as your best player, and they're both all-stars, in the West, you may contend for a playoff spot. You may or you may not make it. But the lack of greater team success, some of the accountability has to be placed upon the best player on the team.
listen, if I'm Devin Booker, I want to get out of Phoenix ASAP, let alone not live in Phoenix, Arizona. Listen, I think young stars and free agents don't really get this. Doesn't really click with them. A lot of them move over to the West because there's great organizations. I agree with it. Because of the organizations, but listen. If you're looking at the Eastern Conference and you have players like Kemba Walker, Trae Young who can start in the All-Star game, and you have cats like Domantas Sabonis, Bam Bam Adebayo, making the All-Star game very easily, and in the West, Devin Booker could barely even make it in, let alone Bradley Beal in the Eastern Conference. That says a lot of things about the correlation between both the East and the West. If you're Devin Booker, at least if my perspective, I will look to make a trade to the Eastern Conference. It's going to be a couple more years to where he can be able to be an unrestricted free agent. I would actually look at a young team like the Atlanta Hawks if I'm Devin Booker. You compare Devin Booker with Trae Young with that backcourt, very similar to Golden State Warriors. Wouldn't be as, the height difference would not be there, but I think that'll be a perfect fit if you're Devin Booker. A young team up and going, he would be the number 2 option, kind of like a Klay Thompson. I think that fits best for his game. And in the Eastern Conference, the Atlanta Hawks are actually going to pretty much be in contending status in the next, I would say, around 3 to 5 seasons. They'll probably make a finals appearance. They're going to be up there as well. Again, that's just my preference. I think he needs to move out east. He's going to make all-star games as well as those appearances and starting. I think the Atlanta Hawks is the way to go. I can't really think of another Eastern Conference team that can put him in good contention, especially as the number 2 option. But as of right now, the Atlanta Hawks, if I'm Devin Booker.
So would he be better off in a lot of other destinations? Sure, it could be worse off in 1 or 2 destinations at least also. But I don't say you can say he's wasting his best years with the Suns, particularly when his best years probably haven't occurred yet.
Well, this kind of reminds me of Kevin Love back his first 6 seasons with the Minnesota Timberwolves back in the early or the mid-around 2000s and in that area or whatever, and the 2010s. Listen, Kevin Love, he'll give you a double-double easily. He can give you 20 and 20. The Minnesota Timberwolves never made a playoff appearance. The closest they were, I think, was his last season. They're around 40 and 42. I think they finished around the 9th seed. Kevin Love was an automatic all-star, one of the best power forwards in the game, if not the best, debatably. But then again, Kevin Love, 6 seasons in the NBA, no one really batted an eye when it comes to that. Same thing with Devin Booker. He can't be a number 1 option. He's going to realize that probably in the next year or two. I don't expect him to make a trade. I think he'll give it a go around with DeAndre Ayton, see how the management team can be able to put in, a surrounding team for him. I think when it comes to next season, Devin Booker probably believes they can make the playoffs. I don't expect that to be the case. You do have the Warriors coming back up after being injured, let alone you're going to have teams climbing up. The Western Conference is too loaded. It doesn't make any sense. Even a talented young team like the Sacramento Kings, they have the talent if they're in the Eastern Conference to make the playoffs. But that's just the division between the two different kingdoms with the East and the West. I think if I were him, you're young. You're around 23 years of age. Get out of Phoenix if you can. If anything, see how the first half of the next season goes for 2021. If they're in a direction to make the playoffs, stick with it. If not, you're gonna have to pretty much jump ship. That's just my that's just my perspective when it comes to it. He's a very talented young cat. I don't think he can be a number one option. He's gonna have to go Eastern Conference, rack up All-Star appearances. If you join like the Atlanta Hawks, watch out, NBA.
I'm a little bit harsh only because I disagree with you because I don't trust management with the Phoenix Suns. And by that, I specifically mean the owner, Robert Sarver. I'm not sold. But I will say this. I love the hire of Monty Williams. The season wasn't even finished yet. There was 17 games to go, guys, and there was already a 7-game improvement led by Monty Williams. I love the Kelly Oubre addition to the squad. I think he shows a lot of promise. I think it was a mistake for the Wizards to lose him, to be quite honest with you. And then you got DeAndre Ayton. What the knock against him is that he's not Luka Doncic or Trae Young, but the brother is averaging 19 and 12. Got he was out for a while, missed about 30, 32 games. But there's no question that they've got some young talent. I love the fact that Monty Williams is the coach, and I think that he's somebody that people will want to come and play for. And God bless him and his family after the tragedy that they had to endure, losing his wife in an auto accident. But I'm here to tell you something right now. He can coach. He knows the game of basketball, and I think any player would be interested in playing for him. But if your owner is such a huge question mark, then that's a problem. Consider what the Phoenix Suns were. When Mike D'Antoni was there, okay, you had something special with him and Steve Nash. Now, obviously, Steve Kerr came there as a GM before he landed the job as a coach with the Golden State Warriors, and he tried to convince Mike D'Antoni, to hire Tom Thibodeau as his, basic defensive coordinator. Tom Thibodeau wasn't interested in that. Mike D'Antoni wasn't interested in that. As a result, Thibodeau ended up in Boston with Doc Rivers. They won a championship in 2008.
Real quickly, listen, when it comes to the Suns, and you expect this with the young team, with the young cat, as of right now, start spotlighting when it comes to Devin Booker, you expect each year they would put better players around him and the team will progress. Listen, he joined in 2015-2016. They finished with a record of 23-59. The next season, 24-58. Then 21-61. 19-63 last season. And then around now, they're actually 26-39. So the first 4 seasons, they got worse when it came to it. They were 23-59, and they had a worse record every single season. Now, credit this season. Well, not really credit, but there were 26 wins and 39 losses, which is a 3-game improvement from his first rookie season. That's crazy. And that's nowhere even close to making the 8th seed, if anything. Now, credit the Phoenix Suns. They were around the 7th, 8th seed for the first 15 games. I thought they were getting in a good direction to where maybe they could possibly keep that going. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs, but I thought that was very enlightening to see how they started off. But listen, even with next season coming up, I don't expect them to make the playoffs, let alone be even considered legitimate candidate to slide in that 8th seed. And this is just a waste of Devin Booker's, beginning years when it comes to him. He can't be a number 1 option for your team to win games. I think as a number 2 option, as of right now in his young career, yes. That again, I'm going to reemphasize this. Him and Trae Young, when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks, they can get a trade package going on. Throw in picks. That's something he should really consider for his future, when it comes to it. But nah.
Wasn't so rigid and strong-willed about his approach to the game of basketball. But nevertheless, that is what it is. They haven't been the same since Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni departed. And I think that's because of Sarver. In the end, Monty Williams again can coach. I think Devin Booker is a star, and I think the reason why he's not an MVP candidate is because their team is not good. If their team was good, Devin Booker is the kind of
Well, listen, Devin Booker's never going to be an MVP player. He's never going to receive that award, let alone be a candidate. Again, he can't be a number one option for your team. I kind of liken him to like a Bradley Beal, as we've seen Bradley Beal, quote unquote, trying to be a number one option. Yeah, he can give you the stats. He can go off on games. He can make all-star appearances, but he's not going to lead your team to the playoffs. And if he is getting close to it, it's because he's in the Eastern Conference. Same thing with Devin Booker. I just don't trust him. I wouldn't build a franchise off him. I know the peak for his career would probably be a first or second round exit, if anything, and he would have to be like around 27, 28 years of age. Listen, the cat's around 23. If you're Phoenix, of course you want to hold on to him. They really have a lot of pressure going on their management for this season because Devin Booker has talked about a trade rumor in the past about playing with D'Lo and Cat, and this is really going to burst this bubble, but pressure is also on DeAndre Ayton as well.
He shoots like 47, 48% from the field, about 36% from three-point range. He's got a handle. He can get to the basket. He can shoot long range. He's got a strong NBA body. He's got tremendous, tremendous promise. He's that dude. I'm praying. I doubt that it'll happen, but I'm praying that the New York Knicks find a way to trade for him because he was a Leon Rose client.
Listen, the Knicks screw up everything when it comes to trading, free agency for the past, at least 20 years or so. The Knicks, listen, I'm not going to trust them when it comes to it. Devin Booker's not want to go to New York. No one's going to pair up with him. If you're the Knicks, they'll make a stupid trade to obtain him because they need some type of box office young star, if anything. But listen, if you're the Suns, you're not going to trade him to that unless Devin Booker pretty much goes this season or next season and says, hey, trade me to this team, I'm done. But I don't expect Devin Booker to pull a trigger on requesting a trade in at least a year or two. If at least next season, before All-Star break, if they're really around 13 to 15 seed as usual, then yeah, I would expect that. But hey, if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, or even the Phoenix Suns, vice versa, you would either want to get Devin Booker on your team or let alone Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. Because one of those two franchises, they need to make a big move. And whenever it comes to the Timberwolves with Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Lo, if they can bring Devin Booker along and pretty much trade, get a third team involved and, pretty much plummet a bunch of draft picks, go for it. If you're the Phoenix Suns, you want to look to bring in Cat and D'Lo. Of course, you have to include DeAndre Ayton, a third team with different picks, etc. Even if they get a top 3 pick or anything. But that's how urgent it is, especially in the Western Conference, to make a move.
I love Devin Booker. I think he's got that kind of game. But the environment that you're in sometimes can sully what your abilities can ultimately bring to the table, and that's really the problem. And that's why I'm not sold on him staying with Phoenix. I don't want to say the word waste because of Monty Williams. Nothing is a waste as a player with Monty Williams. But your owner does matter, and at least in recent memory, Sarver does not have the greatest reputation. Maybe it's not his.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the video here. I definitely think he's wasting his years in Phoenix. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel in a good way for them to even make the playoffs. And if you're a star player, you're looking at deep in the playoffs or the finals. That's not the case with Devin Booker. I would give it the first half of the season to see what moves they made in free agency, how DeAndre Ayton's progressed, as well as Monty Williams, getting his groove with the team. Listen, this free agency class is weak. They're not going to be able to pull anyone effective. So I expect the same outcome for this team. I don't see many changes at all. I expect them to finish around 11th or 12th seed. And if I'm Devin Booker, I would look to make a trade. I know number one should probably be to Minnesota with your boys D'Lo and Cat. If not that, I would highly suggest looking at the Atlanta Hawks to play along Trae Young. Oh man, that team would be disgusting. Besides that, guys, that's how it is.